In the busy streets of Enugu, where the sound of kiki horns mixed with the smell of roasted corn every evening, David Chokuma and his wife Linda had what many people envied: a comfortable home, 2 healthy children, and years of shared memories. But inside their 2-bedroom apartment in Independence Layout, warmth had slowly turned into silent cold. David wasn't always distant. He used to be that man who rushed home with suya wrapped in newspaper, who laughed loudly during weekend movie nights, and who prayed with his family every morning before work. But lately, Linda noticed that he spent more time on his phone than looking at her. He smiled at messages she could not see. He stayed late after his accounting job at the bank, always claiming work stress. Linda, a soft-spoken schoolteacher with a strong spirit, could sense something shifting. She saw how David's eyes no longer lingered on her. She noticed the way he suddenly became irritated whenever she asked innocent questions like, "When will you be home today?" or "Have you eaten?" Their 2 children, Amarachi and Favor, were too young to understand tension, but even they could feel the atmosphere change. The once playful house became quiet, the kind of quiet that sits heavy on people's hearts. One Saturday morning, Linda sat on the edge of the bed, watching David as he dressed up unusually well for a supposed team meeting. His blue shirt was ironed too sharply. His perfume was too strong. And his smile, too suspicious. "David, are you sure this meeting is just work?" she asked gently. He didn't even look at her. "Linda, please. Must you question everything I say? Don't start this early in the morning." That day was the first time Linda felt her heart sink deeply, the kind of sinking that tells you a storm is coming. Meanwhile, unknown to her, David's storm had a name. Cynthia. Cynthia was a 24-year-old social media influencer who worked part-time near his office. She wore confidence like perfume and had the kind of boldness that made David feel youthful again. She laughed at all his jokes, admired his maturity, and stroked the ego he didn't even realize he had been starving. It started with harmless compliments. Then lunch dates. Then long phone calls at night. Soon, David found himself comparing Linda's calm, responsible nature with Cynthia's carefree excitement, ignoring the truth that maturity and responsibility were what once drew him to Linda in the first place. By the end of that week, David had fully stepped into the dangerous territory of emotional cheating, a territory that was slowly pushing his marriage toward a cliff. Linda looked at him as he walked out of the house that morning, her heart whispering, "God, please don't let this be what I think it is." But deep down, she already knew. And life, as it always does, was preparing to teach David a bitter, unforgettable lesson. The following weeks unfolded like a slow-motion heartbreak. David drifted farther away from home, and Linda found herself living with a stranger who only shared the same address. He no longer ate her meals. He no longer laughed at the children's jokes. He no longer prayed with them at night. Instead, he spent his evenings glued to his phone, smiling at messages with Cynthia's name flashing boldly on the screen. When Linda walked into the room, he would flip the phone face down. The universal sign of guilt. One Tuesday evening, after Linda had helped the children with homework and tucked them into bed, she walked into the living room and found David packing an overnight bag. "David, what is this?" she asked, her voice trembling. He didn't stop packing. "I have a training in Abuja tomorrow morning. I'll be gone for a few days." Linda stared at him. "You didn't mention any training." He zipped the bag sharply. "Do I have to report my every move to you?" His words stabbed her more than he realized. She bit her lip, forcing herself not to cry in front of him. "David, I'm not your enemy," she whispered. He brushed past her, grabbed his car keys, and left without even a glance back. But the truth was simple. There was no training in Abuja. He was spending the weekend with Cynthia at a fancy shortlet apartment in town. Linda's best friend, Chioma, noticed her sadness at work. During lunch break, she pulled Linda aside. "You haven't smiled in weeks. Lindy, talk to me. Linda sighed deeply. I think David is seeing someone. Chioma blinked. You think? Or you know? Linda looked down. I see the signs. I'm just hoping I'm wrong. Chioma squeezed her hand. Listen, my sister, if a man wants to misbehave, you cannot tie him down. But don't lose yourself. Don't stop living. Don't stop praying. That night, Linda cooked her children's favorite meal, jollof rice with fried akara, and played music while they ate. She forced herself to laugh with them, even though her heart felt like wet clay being pressed from all sides. She didn't want her children to carry her pain. While Linda fought to keep her home peaceful, David was basking in Cynthia's attention. She treated him like a celebrity. She called him a babe. She made TikToks with him, carefully hiding his face. She peppered him with affection that made him feel 10 years younger. One evening at the apartment, as she danced around him in her mini dress, David felt like he was on top of the world. Your wife doesn't treat you like this, ABI. Cynthia giggled. David laughed, not noticing how quickly pleasure can blind a foolish man. But even in the middle of the excitement, a small voice inside him whispered. This girl loves the lifestyle, not you. He ignored it. When David returned home after 4 days, Linda welcomed him quietly. You're back, she said gently. Yes, he replied without emotion. You didn't call, even once. David opened his mouth to lie, but Linda raised her hand. It's fine. But it wasn't. That night, after everyone slept, Linda knelt beside her bed and prayed. God, I don't know what is happening. But give me strength. Let the truth come out, in your time. Little did she know. The truth was coming faster than she expected. And David's reckless choices were about to collide with consequences he never imagined. 2 months passed, and David's double life continued like a badly hidden secret. What he didn't know was that the cracks were widening, not just in his marriage, but in the fantasy world he had built with Cynthia. At work, his performance dropped. He was often distracted, missing deadlines, forgetting meetings, and making careless errors. His boss, Mr. Okeke, called him into his office one afternoon. David, is everything all right at home? David forced a smile. Everything is fine, sir. Just tired. Mr. Okeke's eyes narrowed. Tiredness doesn't make a man send the wrong report to a client. David apologized, but as he walked out of the office, it hit him that his job, the one he had built for 12 years, was slipping out of his hands. Still, he didn't slow down his entanglement with Cynthia. Cynthia enjoyed the soft life, but she also had demands, expensive ones. She expected weekend getaways, spa dates, data money, wig money, and just because money. Whenever David hesitated, she would pout and say, Babe, you're a big man now. Don't make me look like I'm begging. And like a fool, David would dig into his savings. One Saturday evening, they sat at a rooftop restaurant in Enugu. Cynthia was taking endless pictures of her food, ignoring him. David tried to start a conversation, but she was too busy adjusting her makeup. Cynthia, you've not looked at me since we sat down, he complained lightly. She shrugged. Relax now, let me get content. David watched her with a sinking feeling. He suddenly remembered how Linda always asked about his day, how she always served him food warm, how she knew when he was stressed without him saying a word. Linda was done suffering in silence. She called for a family meeting with her pastor, her elder brother, and her mother present. David returned home that evening to meet everyone waiting for him. David, sit down, the pastor said calmly. David's heart dropped. What is going on? Linda looked at him with eyes that were tired yet strong. We need to talk about what's happening to this family. David tried to deny everything, but Linda's brother, Emeka, placed a printed screenshot on the table, photos of David and Cynthia in matching outfits, taken secretly at a mall. David froze. He didn't know the pictures existed. Is this the training in Abuja? Linda asked softly. David tried to speak, but guilt choked his throat. The pastor cleared his throat. David, adultery destroys homes. Your wife is hurting. Your children are hurting. And you are losing yourself. Instead of apologizing, instead of showing remorse, David exploded. You all don't understand. I'm tired of this marriage. I deserve happiness too. The room went silent. Linda's mother gasped. Happiness. With a small girl. But David was too far gone. He stormed out, slamming the door. That night, David packed his things and moved in with Cynthia. Cynthia welcomed him, but the smile on her face hinted more of excitement about a new sponsor than love. Linda cried. But only for one night. The next morning, she woke up, looked at her children, and found a strength she never knew she had. Children, she said, Mommy is here. We will be fine. And truly, she would be. Because while David was stepping out into a world of illusion and disaster, Linda was stepping into a season of unexpected elevation. Moving in with Cynthia felt exciting for David at first. No responsibilities, no questions, no children asking for help with homework, just vibes, music, fancy food, and what he believed was peace. Cynthia's apartment was filled with ring lights, piles of wigs, makeup boxes, and half-finished TikTok props. It was nothing like Linda's quiet, neatly arranged home. But David convinced himself that this new environment made him feel young again. For the first 2 weeks, everything felt sweet. Cynthia spoiled him with affection, took endless pictures of their outings, carefully cropping out his face, and cooked only when she felt like it, which wasn't often. Most nights, they ordered expensive food David paid for. But it didn't take long before the sweetness began to fade. One Monday morning, David woke up to an empty apartment. Cynthia had left a note scribbled on the kitchen counter. Babe, gone to the salon. Need 150K for my new hair. Send it before 12, please. David sighed. 150K. For hair. He checked his bank account. His savings had already taken a huge hit from the soft life he was funding. But he didn't want to upset her, so he transferred the money. When she came back in the evening, she didn't even say thank you. Instead, she complained that the hair wasn't full enough and she might redo it next week. David swallowed his frustration. This wasn't what he expected. Back home, Linda was rebuilding her life piece by piece. Her school principal noticed her improved dedication and recommended her for a training program that came with an allowance. The parents of her students praised her patience. Even the pastor's wife invited her to lead a women's support group. For the first time in months, Linda felt seen. She felt valued. Her children also began to adjust. Amarachi would draw pictures for her, and Favor would cling to her lovingly. Every evening, they prayed together. Every weekend, they cooked together. And slowly, the home became warm again, not because David was there, but because Linda chose peace over bitterness. 3 weeks into his new life, David returned home from work to find Cynthia packing clothes in a hurry. Where are you going? He asked. She rolled her eyes. My girls and I are going to Abuja for a content creators event. I told you last week. No, you didn't. Well, I'm telling you now. She zipped her suitcase. I need 200K for the trip. David's eyes widened. Cynthia, I don't have that kind of money right now. She stopped packing and faced him, annoyed. So what exactly do you have? Because since you moved in, everything is on me, light bill, data, groceries. You promised me a comfortable life. David felt a slap of reality. He had left a stable home where Linda supported him emotionally, spiritually, and financially, only to be told he was not useful enough. Cynthia, I'm trying. No, she snapped. You're not trying hard enough? For the first time, Cynthia raised her voice at him. And for the first time, David saw a side of her he didn't want to see again. Before he could speak, her phone rang. She answered with a sweet voice he hadn't heard in days. Hello baby, yes, I'll see you soon. Baby. Someone else. David felt something sharp twist in his chest. Cynthia turned to him casually. David, please don't stress me. Every woman has options. If you can't maintain me, others can. He stood frozen. The fantasy he had traded his marriage for had shattered, just like that. That night, as Cynthia left with her suitcase, David sat alone in the dimly lit apartment, staring at the walls and wondering how he ended up here. A part of him wanted to go home. But pride is a stubborn disease. He couldn't face Linda. Not after the way he hurt her. Not after the things he said. He thought he still had time to fix his life. But life was only warming up. The bitter lessons were just beginning. David spent the next few days pretending everything was under control, even though his life was quietly falling apart piece by piece. Cynthia returned from Abuja posting photos with captions like, "Soft life only," and "If he can't treat you right, upgrade." David noticed something disturbing. In one video, a man's hand appeared briefly. It wasn't his. But instead of admitting he made a terrible mistake, David clung to the last strand of pride he had left. He refused to go home. Refused to call Linda. Refused to face his truth. Pride is a powerful prison. At the office, things got worse. David arrived late almost every day. He looked tired, unkempt, and distracted. His boss noticed. "David, this is the third time this week you've arrived late. What is going on?" David forced a smile. "I'm just dealing with some personal issues, sir." But Mr. Okeke wasn't convinced. "Get your head back in order before you drag this department down with you." David nodded, but deep inside, panic began to build. His job, the one thing he still relied on, was slipping through his fingers. Cynthia's attitude takes a dark turn. When Cynthia returned from her trip, she acted like she owned the apartment. She spent most of her time scrolling on her phone, ignoring David, occasionally asking him for money like it was her right. "Babe, I need 50K for my nails." "Babe, I want to buy a new ring light." "Babe, I'm hungry. Order something." But the worst part was this. She no longer hid that she was talking to other men. One evening, David overheard her laughing on the phone. "No, Joe, forget that older guy. He's broke now. I need someone with vibes and money, yes. Something fresh." David felt his stomach twist. Was he the older guy? Was she already replacing him? He confronted her. "Cynthia, who are you talking to?" She looked at him like he was an annoying mosquito. "Why are you policing me? You don't own me." "But we are together." She burst into laughter. "Together? David, I'm not your wife. Don't give me that stress." Those words punched him right in the chest. As David's world crumbled, Linda's life began to quietly rise. The school sponsored her for a professional development course. She excelled. Parents requested her specifically for their children. Her principal praised her hard work. One Friday evening, the principal called her into his office. "Mrs. Chokuma, congratulations. You've been selected for a promotion. You will now be overseeing the junior primary department." Linda covered her mouth in shock. "Sir, thank you." Her salary increased. Her respect increased. Her confidence increased. That night, she cooked fried rice for her children and they celebrated in their small but peaceful living room. Meanwhile, David ate cold noodles alone in Cynthia's room because she went clubbing without telling him. Two lives. Going in opposite directions. One rainy night, around 11 p.m., David received a call from the landlord. "Mr. Chukwuma, I've not received your rent for this apartment." David blinked. "Rent? But Cynthia told me she paid." The landlord laughed bitterly. "Paid what? She hasn't paid a single kobo since she moved in." David's heart sank. "Please, sir," he begged, "give me till next month. I've given enough time. If you don't pay by the end of the week, you will vacate." As the call ended, David sat on the edge of the bed, his hands shaking. He had left a fully paid home. A wife who supported him. A family who depended on him. For a woman who couldn't even pay her own rent. And now he might become homeless. For the first time, reality squeezed his throat so tightly he couldn't breathe. The next morning, David stood outside, watching Cynthia dance while filming a TikTok. His eyes were empty. His spirit tired. He whispered to himself, "What have I done?" But he still couldn't go home. Not yet. Pride held him by the neck. However, life was not done teaching him. The bitter part of the lesson was still ahead. By the next week, the pressure on David had reached boiling point. The landlord kept calling. His boss kept warning him. Cynthia kept draining him emotionally and financially. And deep inside, he felt an emptiness he had never experienced before. One Wednesday evening, David returned from work to find Cynthia dressed in a sparkling outfit, makeup flawless, perfume strong. "Where are you going?" he asked. She adjusted her wig without looking at him. "A dinner event." "Dinner event with who?" She frowned. "David, don't start. You're already stressing me." "But you didn't tell me anything." She rolled her eyes. "Must I report everything I do to you? Are you my father?" His chest tightened. "Cynthia, you don't even respect me anymore." She paused, looked at him coldly, and said the words that broke him. "Respect. David, please, shift. I already told you before, I'm not your wife. Don't expect wife duties from me." With that, she grabbed her purse and strutted out of the apartment. David sat on the sofa, stunned. The reality he had been avoiding hit him in full force. He had left stability for chaos. Left loyalty for disrespect. Left love for illusion. At work, humiliation arrives. The next day, during a team meeting, David made another mistake, a huge one. He sent an incorrect financial draft to a major client. The client threatened to terminate their contract with the company. Mr. Okeke stormed into his office. "David, what is happening to you? This is not the man I hired." David looked down, ashamed. "If you don't fix this immediately," his boss warned, "consider yourself suspended." Suspended. That meant no salary. No savings. No rent. No pride. His world was collapsing on all sides. Even though David wasn't home, Linda kept her home warm. She made sure her children never felt the absence of their father too deeply. She attended church. She helped others. She healed slowly. One Sunday morning, her pastor called her out during service. "Sister Linda, God is opening new doors for you. Where there was shame, there will be double honor." People clapped. Linda wiped silent tears. She didn't pray for revenge. She prayed for peace. And that peace began to show in her smile, a smile that glowed even through her pain. 3 days later, David received a message from Cynthia. "I think we need space." He called her immediately. "Cynthia, what do you mean we need space?" "I'm not feeling this relationship anymore," she said casually. "You can pick your things this weekend." "Cynthia, where will I go?" She scoffed. "David, you're a grown man. Figure it out." Then she hung up. Just like that. No emotion. No apology. No remorse. David stared at his phone as if it could explain what was happening. The woman he abandoned his family for. The woman he defended. The woman he funded. The woman he gave everything to. Just dumped him with one sentence. He couldn't believe it. He couldn't breathe. That night, he sat on the apartment floor, crying quietly, the kind of tears that make a man question his entire existence. Saturday morning, he went to Cynthia's apartment to collect his belongings. When she opened the door, a tall, muscular young man walked out behind her, adjusting his belt and smiling. "Baby, I'll call you," the man said to Cynthia before walking past David. David's stomach knotted painfully. Cynthia smiled wickedly. "David, meet someone who can give me the life I want." He felt something inside him shatter. This was the bitter lesson life had prepared for him. Served hot and without mercy. Without saying a word, he picked up his bag and walked away, shame burning through him like fire. With no home, no savings, and the threat of suspension at work, David stood at the roadside not knowing whether to cry, scream, or disappear. One thought filled his mind. How do I face Linda after everything? But whether he liked it or not, he had only two options left. Face the consequences. Or remain destroyed. And life was about to push him toward the consequences. David stood outside Linda's apartment gate for almost 15 minutes. His heart pounded loudly in his chest. Shame held his feet to the ground like cement. What would he even say? How would he explain the unforgivable? How would he look into the eyes of the woman he wounded? Every time he tried to knock, his hand trembled. Inside the apartment, Linda was helping Amarachi with her school project while Favor played with building blocks on the carpet. There was peace, a peace that felt sacred. But outside, a broken man battled his pride. Finally, David inhaled shakily and knocked. Knock, knock. Linda opened the door, and for a moment, neither of them spoke. David looked different, thinner, tired, humbled. His once confident eyes were now weak and apologetic. "Linda," he whispered. She didn't answer. She simply stepped aside and let him in, not because she wanted to, but because she was raised with kindness. David walked in silently, his head bowed. The children froze. "Daddy?" Amarachi asked softly. David's heart cracked open. He knelt down, hugged them tightly, and cried, truly cried. Linda watched quietly, her arms crossed, pain hidden beneath her composure. When the children went to their room, Linda finally spoke. "David, what do you want here?" Her voice wasn't angry. It was calm. Too calm. "Linda." "I'm sorry," David began, tears streaming down his face. "I made a terrible mistake. I lost everything." She looked at him, expression unreadable. "David, you didn't just lose everything. You threw everything away." He swallowed painfully. "I know. But please, let me explain." Linda shook her head slowly. "Explain what?" "That you left your home for a stranger. That you abandoned your children. That you humiliated me in front of my family." Her voice cracked for the first time, but she quickly steadied herself. David covered his face. "I was blind, Linda. I don't even know what happened to me. She studied him for a long moment. The man standing before her was not the confident husband she once knew. This was a man who life had beaten thoroughly. David, she said quietly, you need help. More than I can give. Her words pierced him deeper than Cynthia ever could. David told her everything. How Cynthia used him. How the landlord threatened eviction. How his job was on the line. How he had nowhere else to go. How he realized too late the value of the woman he left behind. Linda listened, holding her emotions tightly like a fragile plate she refused to drop. When he finished, there was a long silence. I'm not sending you back out there, she finally said. Because of the children. You can stay, for now. But things will not go back to normal overnight. David nodded quickly. Anything. I'll do anything. But, she added firmly, don't think this means I trust you again. Trust is earned. David lowered his head. I understand. She looked at him again, this time, not with love, but with the quiet strength he had never noticed before. David, I survived when you left. Don't think I can't survive without you. He felt the weight of her sentence. He understood it. Linda had grown. Linda had changed. Linda had discovered her own strength. And now, he was the one who needed her. That night, David slept in the living room. Not out of punishment, but because he couldn't bear to step into the room he once shared with Linda. He lay on the sofa, staring at the ceiling, the sound of the ticking wall clock mocking him. He had come home. But the journey to redemption had only just begun. Because forgiveness, rebuilding trust, healing, those were mountains he would have to climb with his bare hands. Life had humbled him. Now it would teach him how to rebuild if he was willing. The next morning, David woke up earlier than everyone else. He didn't sleep much, his mind was heavy with guilt, shame, and confusion. But for the first time in a long while, he felt a strange determination. He needed to fix his life. He needed to fix his home. He needed to fix himself. Linda was in the kitchen when he walked in. Good morning, he said quietly. She nodded without looking at him. Morning. The coldness in her tone stung him, but he couldn't complain. He earned it. Without being asked, David joined her in the kitchen, picking up vegetables to chop. Linda glanced at him, surprised. You don't have to. No, he replied softly, I want to. It was a small gesture. But small gestures are where repentance begins. At breakfast, Amarachi and Favor kept staring at him, still unsure how to act around their father who had disappeared for months. Daddy, will you stay now? Amarachi asked cautiously. David swallowed hard. Yes. Daddy will stay. Favor, the younger one, leaned closer. No more travel. No more, David said with a trembling voice. Linda watched the exchange quietly. Her children were happy to have their father back. But happiness does not erase the wound. Later that day, David went to work, determined to fix the mess he created. But life wasn't ready to go easy on him. Mr. Okeke called him into the office immediately. David, sit down. David sat, heart pounding. I've reviewed your recent performance. It's been terrible. Unacceptable. I know, sir. I've been going through a lot, but I'm ready to focus. Mr. Okeke raised a hand. Your personal life is not an excuse. You almost caused this company a major client. David nodded, humiliated. So, Mr. Okeke continued, you're being placed on 2 weeks suspension without pay. If anything like this happens again, you'll be dismissed. Suspension. No salary. Not even transport allowance. David felt the floor tilt beneath him. "Thank you, sir," he whispered, even though it hurt like fire. When he walked out of the office, coworkers whispered, some even smirked. The humiliation was complete. When David returned home earlier than usual, Linda noticed. "You're back early." "Yes," he said quietly. "I've been suspended for 2 weeks." Linda inhaled deeply. She didn't rub it in. She didn't mock him. She simply said, "I'm sorry." That simple sympathy felt like a knife in his chest, because she had every right to laugh at him, yet she didn't. That evening, while the children did homework, David sat alone on the balcony, staring into space. He had no money. No savings. No pride. No certainty. Only regret. The following days were hard. But David tried. He washed dishes. He bathed the children. He helped with homework. He prayed with the family. He apologized again and again. He became quieter, humbler, more patient. Linda noticed. One evening, while folding clothes, she looked at him and said, "David, I see you're trying." He paused, surprised. "Thank you. But trust won't come back in a day," she continued. "Healing takes time." "I understand," he said. "I'll wait. I'll do whatever it takes." For the first time since he returned, Linda believed he meant it. Just when things seemed to be getting calmer, David received a message from the bank. "Your account is in overdraft. Please visit your bank immediately." He rushed to the branch the next morning. After speaking with the officer, he learned the bitter truth. Cynthia had used his card details to subscribe to several expensive services while they were together, costing him money he didn't even realize he was losing. His last 20,000 Nigerian nairas had vanished. He walked out of the bank dizzy, his throat tight. Life wasn't just teaching him a lesson. Life was washing him thoroughly. When he returned home, Linda saw the pain in his eyes. "What happened?" she asked gently. David sat down, defeated. Everything is gone." For the first time since he returned, Linda felt something she didn't expect. Pity. Not romantic pity. Not emotional pity. Just human pity. Life had broken this man. Not to destroy him, but to rebuild him. The morning after his visit to the bank, David woke up feeling hollow. Not tired, not sad, just empty. The kind of emptiness that comes when life has drained you completely and left you with only breath and regret. He looked around the room he once shared with Linda. The bed was neatly spread, Linda's handiwork. The curtains were open to let in fresh light, Linda again. For years he had taken these small comforts for granted. Now, each little detail felt like a reminder of what he almost lost. He dragged himself to the sitting room. Linda was preparing the kids for school. She didn't smile, but she greeted him softly. "Good morning." He nodded. "Good morning." Her voice wasn't warm, but it wasn't cold either. It was neutral. Neutral was better than hostility. When the children left, Linda packed her things for work. David sat quietly at the edge of the couch, staring at nothing. She noticed. "You look tired," she said. "I'm fine," he lied. Linda sighed, long, deep, tired. "David, you can talk to me. You're still the father of my children." "I know. Thank you." But he didn't talk. He couldn't talk. Shame had glued his throat shut. When Linda left for work and the kids for school, David knelt down in the sitting room. He wasn't even sure how to pray anymore. Words wouldn't form. All he managed was, "God, help me." And for the first time in years, he cried. Not quiet tears, but heavy sobs, the kind that shake a person from the inside. Sobs that release years of pride, foolishness, and stubbornness. He cried until he fell asleep on the rug. Linda was distracted at work. She kept thinking about David, his face, his silence, his brokenness. Her colleague, Chioma, noticed. "Are you okay?" she asked. Linda forced a smile. "I'm fine." Chioma leaned closer. "Is it David?" Linda blinked in surprise. "How did you? You've been quieter since he returned. And you sigh a lot." Linda chuckled sadly. "It's complicated." Chioma shook her head. "Men don't know the value of what they have until consequences humble them." Linda sighed again. I don't know what to do. The pain he caused me still sits here." She touched her chest. "And does he still love you?" Chioma asked. Linda didn't answer. She had no answer. Because even though David was trying, the wound was still fresh, still bleeding, just covered lightly by effort. That evening, while David was helping the children with homework, a message popped up on his phone. "Cynthia. I need to see you. Urgently." He felt his stomach tighten. He blocked her number weeks ago, so how did she contact him? Another message appeared. "Cynthia. You think you can block me? I got a new SIM. I need your help. I'm pregnant." David dropped the phone instantly, as if it bound him. Linda looked up sharply. "What's wrong?" He couldn't speak. "What happened?" she pressed. David shook his head. It's nothing. I'll handle it." Linda narrowed her eyes. She could smell trouble. "David, what is it?" He swallowed hard, voice barely steady. "Cynthia messaged me." Linda went completely still. "What did she say?" David closed his eyes. "She says she's pregnant." Silence. Deep, heavy, suffocating silence. The kind that could cut the air like a blade. Linda stood up very slowly. Her breath hitched. She held the edge of the table to steady herself. Pregnant. With David's child. After the pain, the humiliation, the betrayal. David rushed toward her. "Linda, listen, I don't know if it's true. She lies a lot. It could be a trap." Linda stepped back. "David, please. Don't touch me." He froze. "I'm not saying I believe her," she continued, voice shaking. "But even the possibility is enough to break me again." David felt his chest tighten. Pain. Guilt. Fear. Everything hit him at once. "Linda, I swear, if the child is mine, I will take responsibility. But I don't want Cynthia. I want this family." Linda pressed a hand to her forehead. "And you expect me to wait while you confirm if you have another child outside?" David's knees weakened. He sank onto the couch, burying his face in his hands. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I'm so sorry." But sorry doesn't erase consequences. Sorry doesn't cure betrayal. Sorry doesn't silence a woman's fear. That night, Linda lay awake staring at the ceiling. David lay on the floor beside the bed, unable to sleep. Her mind raced. What if the pregnancy is real? What if Cynthia starts drama? What if the children find out? What if this is God's way of telling her to walk away? Meanwhile, David whispered prayers to God, begging for mercy, strength, and clarity. Life was not done teaching him lessons. The biggest lesson was coming. And it would change everything. David woke up with a pounding headache. He hadn't slept more than an hour, and the heaviness in his chest felt worse than the day before. As he sat up from the floor, he saw Linda already dressed for the morning rush. Her movements were stiff, mechanical, the movements of someone trying not to feel too much. "Good morning," he said quietly. She didn't respond immediately. Then she finally whispered, "Morning," without looking at him. The silence between them was no longer cold. It was wounded. Fragile. Fearful. Linda walked out to get the children ready for school. David heard her voice, calm, gentle, motherly, and he was hit by another wave of shame. Linda was suffering emotionally, but she still put her children first. When the kids left for school, David tried again. "Linda, can we talk?" She stopped but didn't turn. "I don't think there's anything new to say." David swallowed hard. "I need you to hear something." Linda finally turned slightly, arms crossed. "I'm listening." He took a deep breath. "I will take a DNA test. Immediately she gives birth, or before, if possible. I won't take her word for anything." Linda stared at him, her expression unreadable. "David, this isn't about a test. It's about the fact that the possibility even exists." He lowered his gaze. "I know. And I'm sorry. For everything." She sighed. "I don't know how to feel right now. I just need space." And she walked out of the house, leaving him drowning in helplessness. Later that day, as David paced the living room, another message came in. "Cynthia. If you don't come and see me today, I will show up at your house. Don't test me." David felt fire rise in his chest. He typed back. "David. Don't ever come near my house. Don't threaten me again. When you're ready for a hospital appointment, I'll be there, nothing more." She replied instantly. "Cynthia. Oh, so now you're forming responsible father. Don't forget you begged me not to leave you. Or should I tell your wife everything?" David's heart nearly choked him. He typed. "David. Linda knows everything." Cynthia paused for a moment, then sent another message. "Cynthia. Then she should also know I'm carrying her husband's child. Maybe she'll step aside." David's vision blurred with anger. "David. Linda is not stepping aside for anybody. Get that into your head. Cynthia. We'll see." At work, Linda tried to focus, but her heart was not in it. Her boss, Mrs. Okizi, who had grown fond of her, pulled her aside. "You look troubled," she said softly. Linda tried to smile. "Just family issues." Mrs. Okizi nodded knowingly. "Remember what I told you? Marriage is like two people holding a pot of soup. If one person lets go, everything spills." Linda looked down. "But what if the pot is already broken? Then both of you must decide whether to buy a new pot or walk away." The woman's words settled deeply into Linda's heart. Walk away. Or rebuild. She didn't know yet. Later that afternoon, as Linda prepared to close from work, her phone rang. The caller ID made her heart skip. Unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. "Hello. Good afternoon, Ma." It was a soft female voice. "Yes, who is this?" "My name is Esther. I'm Cynthia's friend." Linda's heart tightened. Okay. I'm calling because I feel you should know the truth. Please don't tell Cynthia I called. Linda held her breath. What truth? There was a pause, then the girl spoke. Cynthia is not pregnant for your husband. The man responsible is one boy called Tachuku. He's younger than her. They've been dating. She only wants to pin the pregnancy on your husband because she's angry he left her. Linda's hand trembled. Are you sure? She whispered. Yes, Ma. I'm very sure. They've been fighting because Tachuku refused to take responsibility. Cynthia said your husband is the easiest target. That's her exact words. Linda closed her eyes as relief washed over her like cool water on a hot day. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you so much. Please be careful with her. She's not stable. The call ended. When she got home, David was sitting on the balcony, looking like the weight of the world was on his shoulders. He turned when he heard her footsteps. Linda, She lied, Linda whispered. David blinked. What? She's not pregnant for you. He sat up quickly. How do you know? Linda stepped closer. Someone close to her called me. She's trying to use you because the real father rejected her. David put both hands on his head and exhaled shakily. Oh my God. Oh God. Thank you. Linda watched him. The relief on his face was real. Genuine. Deep. Then something unexpected happened. David began to cry. Not small tears, full, raw tears of a man who had been tormented by fear and guilt. I'm so sorry, Linda, he whispered through tears. I'm so sorry for putting you through this. I'm sorry for everything. Linda felt her own eyes fill. She sat beside him. No more lies, David, she said softly. No more secrets. He nodded vigorously. No more. I swear. For the first time in months, something shifted between them. Not full healing. Not immediate love. But the first seed of rebuilding. The next morning, the house felt different. Lighter. Calmer. Almost peaceful. For the first time in a very long while, David woke up without dread sitting on his chest. He stretched quietly on the floor where he had been sleeping, and when he looked up, Linda was watching him from the doorway. Not with anger. Not with hurt. Just observing. Good morning, he said gently. Good morning, she replied, and this time, she held his gaze for a moment longer than usual. It was small. But for David, it felt like a miracle. After the kids left for school, Linda called David into the living room. We need to talk, she said. David's heart raced. I'm listening. Linda sat, hands clasped tightly. I'm not rushing anything. I'm not making any decisions yet. But I need to understand something. Anything, David whispered. While you leave? Her voice trembled. I mean the real reason. Not the excuses. Not the surface-level answers. The truth. David's throat tightened. He stared at his hands for a long moment before speaking. I didn't leave because you weren't enough, he said slowly. I left because I wasn't enough. Linda blinked. I felt like a failure as a man, David continued. Work was collapsing, money was tight, and instead of fixing things, I ran. Cynthia, she fed my ego. She made me feel like I wasn't struggling. Like I was still in control. He shook his head with shame. It was stupid. Weak. Wrong. But I didn't cheat because I didn't love you. I cheated because I didn't love myself. Linda's eyes softened. Pain lingered there, but understanding began to shape itself. And when everything started falling apart, David continued, I realized I'd left the only person who ever truly cared about me. Linda exhaled shakily. I needed to hear that. They sat in silence, a silence that wasn't bitter, just heavy with truth. As if on cue, David's phone buzzed. Cynthia. Again. David hesitated, then showed the screen to Linda. Should I answer? Linda nodded. Yes. He put the call on speaker. David, Cynthia's voice snapped, I've been trying to reach you. You think you can block me? You're wicked. You're heartless. You want to abandon me in this condition. There is no condition, Cynthia, David said calmly. I know the truth. Silence. Then Cynthia hissed. Oh, so that Esther has started running her mouth. You tried to trap me, he replied firmly. But you won't succeed. Leave me and my family alone. Cynthia's tone turned shrill. David, you regret this. You think your wife will take you back? Foolish man. Linda stepped closer to the phone. Cynthia, she said calmly, if you call this number again, I will report you. Stay away from my home. Cynthia clicked her tongue and hung up. David stared at Linda, stunned. She had defended him. Protected him. Stood beside him even after everything. Linda took a deep breath. We are not fully there yet. But I won't let another woman harass my home. David felt something in his chest melt. Thank you, he whispered. I don't know if I'm ready to take everything back the way it used to be, she said honestly. I understand, he replied. But I am willing to try, she finished softly. For the children. For the home. And, maybe eventually, for us. David felt tears stain his eyes. Thank you, he whispered. Thank you for giving us another chance. Linda turned slightly, looking at him with an expression he hadn't seen in months, not love, not yet, but hope. Don't waste it, she warned gently. Never again, David promised. That night, after Linda went to bed, David stepped outside to throw out the trash. As he opened the gate, a shadow moved near the fence. David. His heart froze. Cynthia stood there. And she didn't look normal. Her hair was rough, her eyes wild, and she held something behind her back. David, she repeated, stepping closer. This isn't over. David froze. The street was quiet, the evening breeze still, and Cynthia's shadow stretched across the ground like something out of a bad dream. Her eyes were bloodshot, her clothes rough, and her hands trembling. Cynthia, what are you doing here? David asked, stepping back slightly. She walked closer, her voice shaky and aggressive. You think you can dump me just like that? After everything you promised me. After everything I gave you. David swallowed hard. Cynthia, we are done. You need to leave. You can't come to my house. Before he finished, she raised her hand. She wasn't holding a weapon. She was holding a small bottle. A bottle of pills. David, she whispered, voice breaking. I'm tired. I'm tired of everything. If you don't take responsibility for me, I swear I'll swallow all of this right here. David's stomach dropped. Cynthia, no, don't do something foolish. She stepped closer, shaking. You think you can ruin my life and just walk away? You think I'm afraid? Let me end it, let me end everything. Stop! David shouted. Just then, the gate creaked open behind him. It was Linda. She had come to check why he was taking long. And she walked directly into the scene. Her eyes widened. Cynthia! Cynthia burst into dramatic tears. Look at him. He wants to abandon me. He wants me dead. Linda raised a firm hand. Enough. Enough of the nonsense. Cynthia blinked, startled. Linda stepped forward slowly. Put down the bottle. No. Your husband ruined my life. He used me. Cynthia, Linda said calmly, you ruined your own life. You chased a married man. You lied about a pregnancy. You stole his money. And now you're here threatening suicide because you want attention. Cynthia's mouth fell open. Linda's voice remained steady, unshaken, almost frightening in its composure. Do you really want help? Or do you want drama? Cynthia's hands shook. Tears fell down her cheeks. But this time, they weren't dramatic tears, they were real ones. I don't know, she whispered. Linda stepped closer and gently took the bottle from her hand. Cynthia didn't resist. Go home, Linda said softly. And get help. Real help. Cynthia covered her face and sobbed. She wasn't evil. She was damaged, desperate, and completely lost. David watched, speechless, humbled by the woman he once abandoned. After a long moment, Cynthia turned and walked away, shoulders slumped, steps slow, defeated. It was the last time they would ever see her. David locked the gate and turned to Linda with shaking hands. Thank you, he whispered. I don't know what to say. Linda looked at him quietly. You don't need to say anything. But David shook his head. I'm so sorry. For everything. For bringing this madness into your life. For exposing you to drama you never deserved. Linda exhaled softly. David, I won't pretend I'm healed. I'm not. But what happened today? She paused. It showed me the difference between the two of us. David frowned. What do you mean? Cynthia wants chaos, Linda said gently. You're trying to choose peace. And I choose peace with you, but only if you continue choosing it too. David felt tears rise again. I will. I swear I will. The children blossomed too. Amarachi stopped being afraid of her father leaving again. Favor began drawing pictures of mommy and daddy together, proudly displaying them on the wall. On a quiet Saturday evening, after the kids were asleep, David and Linda sat on the balcony watching the city lights. The night air was calm and warm. I need to tell you something, David said softly. Linda looked at him. What is it? He took a deep breath. I'm grateful. More than you know. Not everyone gets a second chance. Not everyone deserves one. But you gave it to me anyway. Linda smiled faintly. We both deserved peace. David nodded. And I want you to know. I won't waste this chance. Never again. He reached out slowly, not assuming, not demanding, just hoping. Linda hesitated for a moment. Then she placed her hand in his. For the first time in almost a year, their fingers intertwined. A small gesture. But a powerful one. A reminder that broken things can be rebuilt. That wounded hearts can heal. That lessons, even bitter ones, can produce better people. Months later, A friend told Linda she saw Cynthia working at a supermarket in another town, quiet, withdrawn, noticeably different. Life had humbled her too. No more threats. No more drama. No more chaos. Everyone had learned their lesson. But David learned the biggest one. A peaceful home is more valuable than 1,000 sweet lies. The woman who stands by you in storms is worth more than the woman who dances with you in sunshine. And when life teaches you a bitter lesson, don't waste the sweetness of the second chance that follows.